sure whatever you're talking about is not rocket science. So I can assure you this is not rocket science. Alumni relations has nothing to do with any correct answers. Everyone practices their own form of alumni relations. I'm just going to share some knowledge I gained from an institute, a 5-day course in Singapore 4 years back, and from my experience over the last 14 months in Lovedale after we set up this alumni relations office. If you're looking for money to advance your school or your programs in your school or your infrastructure, if you look at who the stakeholders in your school are and try and analyze who do you think is going to give you money, is it the management or the government? Is it your parents? Is it your staff? Is it your students? Is it who else? Who is going to give you money? For a school like ours, 156 years old, 710 acres, so many playing fields, so many old buildings, who is going to give us money, especially when we belong to the government of India? The single largest potential stakeholder who could give us some money out of the normal fees which we tax our parents with is the alumni. And so we have a very strong alumni association in Lovedale, but we decided to set up an office here in the school to organize and to coordinate the fundraising. And over the last 14 months, we have raised over 5 crores, which is a lot of money for our school. And with that money, we have got tennis courts, badminton courts, a new career development center, the lights in this hall, the speaker system, lots of stuff. So I suggest to anyone who has a new school or to anyone who is looking for money and having tapped your alumni, please look at this possibility. Do you know who Dr. Nitin Noria is? Does anyone have an answer? Yes, sir.
He's from Crompton Green.
Mr. K.K. Noria was former chairman and managing director of Crompton Green, you're right. His son, Dr. Nitin Noria, is the first Indian origin dean of Harvard Business School. The first Indian origin dean of Harvard Business School, son of Mr. K.K. Noria. What did Dr. Nitin Noria do when he took over in July 2011? The first thing he did was to go all around the world visiting alumni. And why would he do that? Our foreign exchange reserves are $310 billion. India's foreign exchange reserves, $310 billion. Harvard Business School, alumni corpus, $35 billion. Why would Dr. Nitin Noria go anywhere else other than meet alumni? Think about it. Do you know who Mr. Sukhbir Singh is? The Deputy Chief Minister of Punjab, now a Akali government. What is his relation to alumni relations? 1 year back, Mr. Sukhbir Singh gave 1 crore from the Punjab government treasury under the Punjab Nirman scheme to the Lawrence School in Sanaur, which is in Himachal Pradesh, which was his old school. And when someone asked him, what does Punjab government money have to go to Lawrence School Sanaur, he said, isn't Sanaur in India? That is the power of alumni relations. Yeah? So that was a big scandal in Punjab, of course, but you certainly benefit from it. What does the Alumni Relations Office do? And the 6 biggest tasks, I would think, to maintain the database, which is the biggest challenge for any school, which is why I appeal to new schools to look at it, because then you have less of a problem. A school like ours, or take Madras Christian College, I worked a lot with Madras Christian College, 176 years old, with absolutely no data on the alumni to begin with. Now they're building it up. And Indira Nui gave 5 crores, single largest donation to Madras Christian College. You provide services to the alumni. If I go back after 40 years and I haven't got my degree certificate or my school certificate and I need help, who do I go to? You produce communications, newsletters, emails, magazines, whatever. website, you organize events, and you enable mentoring opportunities. Okay? So please brand your association. These are global academic brands. All of them are not so great schools, but they are powerful brands. So is your alumni brand, does it have recall value? And do your alumni think of institute every day? Look at the brands there. Some of them are very powerful. How about Kingfisher? Is that a powerful brand today? So be careful of your brand collapsing also. Link your brand or your community with merchandise. For example, ties, mugs, and stuff like that. Harvard has a credit card where you get points. 20-year-old daughter with dots and dashes. And she didn't know what this means. Yeah, it was that, that colon and that bracket, smiles. My daughter was sending her grandmother smiles. But my mother didn't understand all this. So when you talk to an 80-year-old member of the alumni community, don't send dots and dashes. But when you send your message to a 20-year-old member of your alumni community, please send only dots and dashes. Yeah? So, communicating with your alumni, your students are going to be aware, but they're not going to be able to contribute. Your senior alumni are going to be able to contribute in a large measure, but they're not going to be able to participate much. That will depend on the young alumni. And our analysis is that peak activities are around 42 to 45, about 25 years after they leave school. Students of today, I can't emphasize this too much, because please concentrate on your students. Involve your current students to get data. Earlier you engage people in the alumni community, the more connected they're going to be. So please start now. You will have problems of disparity in all kinds. You will have disparity in income, disparity in status, in society. So you have to be as inclusive as possible. For example, the president of the Madras Christian College Alumni Association is the chairman and managing director of MRF, Mr. Vilumar. At the same time, there will be an assistant manager of MRF who is also a member of the alumni community. And you will have to be sensitive to managing both their requirements. So you have to be as inclusive as possible. Use technology. This is the snapshot of the Harvard website, alumni website. Lawrence School also has a alumni website. So please use technology because it's so comprehensive. You have events, you have mentoring, chat. If you go to any village in the world, you can see which member of the community is present in that particular village. It shows up with which batch and stuff like that. So these days websites are so comprehensive, that should be your objective. Finally, the most what most people are doing these days is just having events, and that is eating and drinking and meeting. That's what most alumni associations do. That is not enough, but that's a very important part of what our activity has to be. And then you have lots of checklists on what kind of events you have and what you're doing with it. And and you also have to be careful about a few things like dominating personalities or offensive names. For example, in my class, there was a guy with a nose which is longer than mine. And you remember the aircraft, the Concorde. Yeah? So we used to call him the Concorde. Yeah? Now, when he was in school, he was very proud of that name, Concorde. But when he had an 18-year-old son and a 44-year-old wife, he was not very happy about that name. And so he doesn't attend our reunions. Because he doesn't want to be called Concorde in front of his wife and his son. And so you get problems like these when you have reunions. And I just gave a very mild example of a name. All of us know what kind of names our classmates have. Yeah? So you beware of ego problems. You have discipline problems. Now you have alcohol served at reunions. And then they go and have an accident after that. And then the newspaper will say, alumni of so-and-so school involved in an accident. And then you get a situation. So please manage all that. Finally, alumni relations professionals have to be very calm and collected and have to smile in business. So Thank you very much.
Presentation uploaded or whatever. I think we've had some fantastic speakers this afternoon. I'm glad that the Discover Tomorrow Progressive Principles workshop has been able to initiate a really intense, intellectually invigorating afternoon. And that for me is really a job well done. So thank you so much for all of you who've contributed and who are now in the pipeline to contribute. And this is really great going. While they're getting the presentation up, what I really wanted to do was talk about the second emerging trend. And I'm going to rush through this because I have 10 minutes now before we wind up. We've talked a lot about India's demographic, India being the youngest country, etc., all of that stuff. I think as a futurist, I'm not looking at being the youngest country anymore. In another 15 to 20 years, we will really be one of the oldest countries. And that's something that we have to look at. And both opportunities and challenges will come up when we cross that age group. So currently, if you have about 60% of India's population in the age group of 15 to 25, in another 15 years, you're actually looking at a large number of people in the age group of 60 and 60 plus. So what are the opportunities for all of us? What are the opportunities for all of us? What are the things that our students need to be looking at in terms of, being prepared for a society that is essentially, more popularly known as India's silver tsunami, so people with gray hair. We've also have, Anusha talked a little bit about populations in Germany and Japan and having no workforce, people right kind of skills. And across industry, across hospitals, ATMs, hotels, wherever you go, you will find people, playing the role of a guard, 3,000 to 7,000 rupees per month. And The Economist did a very good article. This picture is from The Economist. Talks about, so if India is a young population and it has so much possibility to do, extraordinary amount of work, why is 80% of India's young population in non-skilled, unenterprising kind of jobs? And that really is and should be a point of discussion about skilling. Prime Minister Modi is talking about that. He's talked about the Apprenticeship Act and all of that. But honestly, the people who create the pipeline is us in the schools. And the kind of students that go out into the colleges are a product of the schools. So the interventions really need to happen here. He's talked about the Apprenticeship Act, and there's also some more conversation about high school internships, which is a very huge emerging opportunity. But again, there is a disconnect between the industry, because the industry will not hire high school students for internships. Certain section of students that will not make the grade. And so what is our solution for those? That's where the fight is going to be really tough. These are students who will be left at the bottom of the talent pyramid. And that's where the most important intervention has to be. Unfortunately, we keep focusing on some of the more elitist schools to take the first action. And by the time it comes down to the government schools, most of the actions filtered out. And I'll tell you why it is important to look at the bottom of the pyramid, because this is the data on the number of jobs in BPOs that were lost to India in the last 2 years. 200,000 jobs that have gone to countries like Poland, Egypt, Bulgaria, Romania, Australia. People will take their business wherever it is cheap, wherever it is more convenient for them.
Nice to meet all the principals, because I think only myself and Anusha are here as managements, where it's a nice opportunity to meet all the principals, because of course than managements, principals have much more load in dealing with the parents and the children, because as a part of management, we say this is what you are supposed to do, not beyond that. But still, you all stand as a interlink, supporting the management as well as balancing the parents and balancing the children, where you all get a name called the word dinosaur. So it's nice. And today the topic, when Sangeeta ma'am called me and said, we want you, I said, see, when principals are going to do a wonderful job, where as management, what am I going to do? She said, you are heading 3 institutions and 1 Atma Seva unit. I think your experience will really be useful for principals. I said, of course, I think different. It is like I don't go with a regular style. I want to do everything different. So it's like when we do different, of course, we have to fight out and we have to come. So like most of us say that we are good, most of us say we are bad, but we don't bother about the comments which is coming. But what is the end of the day result is, have we worked in a very satisfactory manner? Yes. So we try to do a lot, as in how when she told the topic, discover tomorrow, this is what we are working. That is, what are we going to create and what are we going to do? So the children innovative taught in agriculture. So you'll not believe, right from KG to class 12, we have put a bag with all the vermicompost and the natural, it's not sand, it is like the coir waste, and we have created a plant, that is, we have created a pot in such a way they bring their own seeds. They have to plant it, they have to water it, they have to weed it, and after a particular time, whatever the vegetable, the green, whatever comes out of it, they are supposed to take it home. So some children, they say that, ma'am, my pot is got a good yield this time, but last time it didn't have a proper yield. I analyzed that I was always checking by pulling the seed and seeing whether it is grown or not. So now I understand the difficulty of a farmer. So I have thought, now I'm not interested to become an engineer or a doctor. I'm going to do the world's biggest agricultural market. So like we have got comments from the parents, this is what we wanted. See, what is dying, we have to bring it out. Then just as in how Anusha ma'am told, like a place where the people know to live in water, and when the government, Thailand government is trying to bring them and give them education. So there the government has to analyze what is their level of knowledge, how we can integrate education with their knowledge, all practical knowledge. So this is what is needed in tomorrow's education. So I request all the principals, that is, start living. It's that, see, of course the board says, CBSE says this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. But still they have given us free hands till 8th standard. Whatever you want you do, but let it be more productive and let it be really useful for the country, because majority of us, the present trend, they get educated, they just move outside the world. That is, they move out to various countries and they start filling their bank balance. And when you just interact with them, see, when we go around, when we ask, so you have settled now in America or you have settled in London, they say free. How many countries now, the present US is still young when you compare to our years of living. So let us think it. So as and how when he came and he was explaining about the alumni, like the school, that is, the school is 150 years old. Just imagine the school which is upcoming recently by 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, where they can implement a strong policy and get everything done. But a school with 150 years, to collect back the people, it plays a vital role. As in how like alumni association is very important, the same. When all schools start up with the alumni, I am very sure all Indians will be back inside the country. And of course, wonders will surely take place in our country. So this is what we wanted for Discover Tomorrow. So thank you. I don't want to take much of others' time. So thank you very much.